Good morning, Winnipeg. My name's Ashley Reese, and you are listening to Morning Light on Winnipeg's Classic 107. It is the first Friday of the month, so you know what that means. We are joined by Chris Hall from McNally Robinson Booksellers, and he is going to tell us what to read. Thank you so much for joining me this morning, Chris. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning, Ashley.
So, we have 5 titles here. Let's get into it. What should we be reading this month?
Absolutely. The first one is by a big name historian, a Canadian historian, Margaret McMillan, probably familiar to a lot of people. Her new book is called War: How Conflict Shaped Us. Now, of course, she was a big name when her original book came out, Paris 1919. We sold a lot of that book, so it resonated with a lot of people. She argues here that war is all around us. We use it as metaphors, we use it as place names on our maps. We read about it in books, we watch it on TV and movies, and we'd like to think that war is an exception. The normal state of things would be peace, but Macmillan says the evidence is really against that. And it's a little bit bleak starting point, but she really convinces us that she spends the whole book basically exploring all of the times and for all of the reasons we've gone to war. So it ends up being a history of wars in the world. But maybe the bleakness kind of goes away when she says it's not is not the natural state of things. Then maybe war and peace is a choice. Maybe we have to work. Maybe war takes effort, but maybe peace takes effort. And it really left me with a sense that maybe we shouldn't take peace for granted. Maybe we don't get to just sit back and have it be. Maybe we need to make it be. So it's an interesting book, all in all.
No kidding. In terms of war and peace having an impact in my generation, I think probably the first event that really hit my life when I was a child was 9/11.
Yeah,
And
sure.
that's something that comes up in your next title, is it not?
Yes, it does. Good
Yeah.
segue. Yes, this one is a novel. It's called Homeland Elegies. It's by Ayad Akhtar. Akhtar is a Pulitzer Prize-winning American playwright. He's written some novels as well. So he's born and bred in the USA, but this novel explores his struggle to feel at home as a person of color in his country of birth. He's literally told to go home all the time. So it's passionate, it's sometimes angry and frustrated, it's always moving and personal. It's a work of what is being called these days as autofiction. And autofiction is a combination of autobiography and fiction. And so this is really Ayad Akhtar's story. He's said as much. He's the main character, and it follows what you would expect his life is, and it largely is. But I listened to an interview with him, and he said this is a couple of things it gave him. It gave him the freedom to say what he wanted to say, change things up a little bit. He's a dramatist, as all novelists are. So to make a point, he can change things for dramatic effect. But it also gives him the freedom for his story to be emblematic and symbolic as opposed to just personal. And so he wants this to be a story about a lot of people who go through what he's experienced. So it's interesting to me the difference when you put novel on the cover compared to autobiography. It allows us to think about it in a different way.
No kidding. Yeah, I've never heard that term autofiction before, but that absolutely makes sense.
Yeah, it
Um,
does. I'm fascinated by why there's so many of suddenly.
yeah, which looking at the description of the next book on the list, is that also an autofiction?
Well, that's interesting because it's not. So this
Okay.
one is called Blackwater. It's by a local author, David Alexander Robertson. He's a prolific local author. He's really poised to break out, I think. He has another book out this season for young readers called Barren Grounds. So if you have young readers in your world, we can recommend Barren Grounds that you buy for them this fall. Numerous other books for adults, for kids. This book is very personal. It's a story of his father. Robertson's the son of a Cree father and a non-Indigenous mother, and David was raised with virtually no awareness of his Indigenous roots. So this book is about his father, from his childhood to the trap line in the bush, to his education. He became a teacher and a United Church minister. But as his father tells him, the story is inevitably about the son and author, David. And David tells it with such honesty, vulnerability, that it's a powerful read. You really connect with it emotionally. And it really is one of the best releases of the season, which is no small thing considering how many new books are coming, how many great new books are coming this fall. for a local author to be up there with them is quite remarkable. I really recommend this book.
Okay, excellent.
But
Now,
you're right. If it is a novel on the front, suddenly this becomes, David's story becomes emblematic of Indigenous people growing up in this country, and you could start going there. But because it doesn't, you're hesitant to do so. I
right.
find that divide very fascinating.
Such an interesting connection.
Mhm.
Now, the next book on the list is our last novel for the list, correct?
Correct. This one's another big name. I said there's a lot of big books this fall. This one's by Marilyn Robinson. And the book is called Jack. So she's another prolific author. She's got a number of novels, including Gilead and Housekeeping, a number of nonfiction books. She's a philosopher of a sorts. She became very well known for having conversations with Barack Obama while he was in office, and those conversations were published and made the rounds. Such wisdom in those conversations. So this is the fourth of her novels to be set in a small town called Gilead, Iowa. And this time in 1956, tells the story of John Ames Boughton, the black sheep of his family. He's a white man who falls in love and marries Della, a beautiful African-American teacher. Robinson's style is meditative, it's thoughtful. She tempts meaning out of very particular places and conversations. It's not an issues book that you might think it would be, but there's a real feeling of something profound in behind the scenes, something wise at work in this novel. I found it incredible that it's a very straightforward story in some levels, but boy, there's a quiet wisdom somewhere in it. I'd have to reread it maybe to find that wisdom, but it certainly was prevalent.
Definitely rereading, rereading, you always find little extra tidbits
Yes,
in
you
there,
do.
for sure.
I wish I had more time for it, to be honest.
Yes, so little time, so many books.
There are. I apologize for
And
that, but it's
oh,
great.
hey,
Great too.
it's great. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, I know our listeners are going to be especially interested in your final pick. It is an issue that raises itself in music history all the time. Tell us about Wagnerism.
Yes, I am shamelessly playing to your crowd. Wagnerism. Now, this is by Alex Ross. I'm sure your audience knows who Alex Ross is, but he is a very well-known New Yorker music critic. He wrote a book 10 years ago or so called The Rest is Noise. It sold like crazy. It was about the history of music in the 20th century. And now this is a huge book. I can hold it up for you, 784 pages. Sorry to those of you in the audience, but you can imagine, or on the radio, but you can imagine 784 pages.
It could only be 700 pages if it's about Wagner.
Isn't that suitable for Richard Wagner? But this isn't a straight up biography. This isn't called Wagner. This is called Wagnerism. So in other words, it's a story about his immense influence, and it's subtitled Art and Politics in the Shadow of Music, because of course that's what you were referring to, the shadow being his clear anti-Semitism and later connections that Nazi Germany made with him. So what does it say about our culture that this music resonates, that his stories resonate to this day? Ross traces the influence of his music and ideas. It permeates our culture, is what he argues. It's through our writing, it's through our art, it's in our movies and television commercials. You can't buy a car commercial without hearing the Flight of the Valkyries, it seems. And I mean, superhero comic books. So the fact that these stories still resonate and still capture us is maybe something for us to examine, as opposed to just discounting Wagner as, well, he's anti-Semitic, and turn on to other things. Maybe we need to look inward a little bit more. So yeah, my question was, why would Ross spend so much time investigating Wagner? But he told me.
Yeah, it's worth it. And it would be a great book to be reading next week because at metopera.org, they are streaming Wagner operas all week long for Wagner Week. So if you're looking for enrichment while you're watching the operas, or a little bit of context or discussion.
I'll bet you the publishers, sorry, pardon me, I bet you the publishers knew that.
But probably, I'm thinking. Now, throughout the month, if folks want kind of a reminder to get reading on these October picks, how else can they find more information there, Chris?
Yeah, something new that we're working with. We're working with the Winnipeg Free Press now, and we are going to put a post of each of these books in their books pages each week. So you can be reminded of them if you're listening to this. You can see them for the first time if you happen to miss this. But yeah, we're going to start that coming soon. It'll also be on our website, where we'll tie into their website and our website and your website at Classic 107. Yes. So yeah, we're going to try to take this What to Read segment to another level, thanks to the Free Press.
Absolutely, get all of Winnipeg reading just a little bit more as we stay home just a little bit more into the fall. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Chris. I am excited to get started on some of these titles here, learn a little bit more while I'm at home, and we'll talk to you again in November.
Absolutely. Be happy to do it.